Morning. It is currently Monday, June 23rd, 2025. It's 8:45. We have this breakdown lower below this accumulation 1, or excuse me, accumulation 2 here. Accumulation 1 is here. As price gaps aggressively lower, seeks buy side above these highs here and into a daily civvy. Wanted to see if we could have a reaction here. We ended up kind of forming this contraction here, breaking above, and then seeking the buy side here. Looking for this to be high of week. I want to see if we get a reaction at this 1 hour balanced price range. We see this fair value gap here and this fair value gap here. We combine them into this balanced price range. Look for price to just tick above this high. It can do anywhere from reach all the way back into this 1 hour BIS-E low before seeking these lows here as we draw closer towards this low. So my objective is not this low. So we just had an order filled here as price reaches back into that. And you'll see that my target is this low. It's not these ones. We're currently we're basically at equilibrium. So I'm not really trying to anticipate large protractions here. I'm just going to aim for a low hanging fruit. I could even aim for this low if I wanted to. I favor sponsorship once we break these lows, basically relatively equal, to seek this low. I'm going to watch as price reacts inside of this range to determine if we are going to actually seek these these higher time frame relative equal lows here, kind of like that previous week low. So we're currently on a 5-minute chart, but if we go to like a 15-minute chart here, we see we have that high form, that contraction here, failure to break above these highs, and then that displacement lower here. So we have that gap here. We have a small little 15-minute gap here is kind of what I'm targeting. So we have price reach into it. Kind of retracing slightly now. We can, of course, we have that 1 hour BIS-E that I was noting here. And that converges very nicely with the high of that balanced price range. So we could see if price wants to take a further stab into this internal range premium and reach back into these converging PD arrays. I'm entering here just because I don't really care for missing the move, I guess. It's more of, this is the entry target. So if we fail to reach that, say we only reach the constant encroachment, I'm not worried about sniping this perfectly. Like, this is completely fine for my risk exposure. So first trade of this funded challenge that I'm taking on Apex. So we're just gonna watch and see how price reacts inside this range. We have a high impact news driver at 9:45, so we're gonna watch that. But before that, we have Equities Open at 9:30, so possible whipsaws around that area. So we're just gonna note this level here, and 45 is here. So this is a higher time frame model, so there's going to be a lot of whipsaws and stuff that I'm going to have to ignore. Like, what's going to happen most likely is we're going to see some sort of reaction here prematurely as price tries to seek maybe like this order block here before seeking this high and then something like this. That means if I do get some drawdown, I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to dismiss my model completely. I'm just going to watch and see how price reacts inside of this range. I'll give some annotations if I see fit for what I expect inside of this model. But for now, we're just going to watch as we expect price to reject off of this internal range premium to seek these lows. That's the draw. The weekly draw is lower, so we're trading in direction of that. I have my stop loss at this impulse protraction lower. You could have it here. You could even have it, if this is the 1 hour bounce price range, you could have it, I guess you could have it here. But I don't really trade that way. There's a lot of different ways you could trade the fair value gap model. But if we take a dealing range here, I'm going to use this. We have premium is everything above 50%. Kind of this range is the optimal trade entry. You'll learn about that later if you decide to seek other playlists. We're just going to be patient. While I'm trading, I'm listening to like classical music, something that's calming. So I'm not listening to like Kanye or something crazy to get my emotions elevated. Run a 15-minute chart, there's no reason to be on like the 15-second chart and try to, forecast, okay, we rejected here, we formed a failure swing. There's no reason to get super involved. Also, what I would do with trading this higher time frame model is, since I used to scalp, I would dive into these lower time frame models and look for reasons to not be in it. Look for that perfect entry. Okay, we're not forming that rejection here, so let me exit and then move my entry here. Just a lot of things that create emotional environments that are unnecessary. This is the higher time frame model. We don't care about drawdown. Like, we really don't care about if price spends some time here. We know the draw is lower, so we're going to enter at a logical area and we're going to see if it pans out. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. I get rid of this just to clear up the charts that I've already in the position. I also keep this under ticks. You can change this to money. So if I went to settings, or I think it defaults to money. This is a very emotional, seeing the money tick up and down, especially when you're new, is something that it's going to be very difficult to make logical decisions while seeing this, basically. I'm only on a $50,000 account, so this is going to fluctuate anywhere from, $10 per couple ticks to, once it reaches here, I believe the stop loss is 0.29%, so it's what? $100 something, $200 something. So I don't know if I can see that here. I don't know, but I keep it at ticks. Go to a 5-minute chart. I want to watch this old low here, which is a little bit higher than these converging levels, but still salient. We have this high, low, impulse direction low, and then high, sweeping these relative equal highs. A breaker is something that you'll learn throughout this series, is something that creates a low, a lower low, a higher high, and it breaks down and retest it. It's a breaker because it breaks the lows, it breaks the highs, and then it retests back into it. Similar to what this is, I'm just going to note the old low instead. Just because it's a point of interest. So we've reached into this 1 hour bounce pressures completely and into this low of this 1 hour BISI, inversion BISI. It's going to 3 minutes to 9. See our price right at this constant equation of this gap kind of treats it as rejection here. It's where this consolidation kind of forms. We have that false break here, break above the highs, crazy wick higher to get back into the high of this gap before displacing lower. As price starts to retrace lower, I'll just utilize the old low as the high. I'm gonna watch as price breaks below this low here, back into this gap here. See if we get a reaction away for a retracement, and just see how price treats premium, internal range premium ways as we start breaking lower. So we've reached that old low there. There's the close of the 1 hour candle. We'll look at this chart here. We closed right, right below the low of this civvy. We can see as price accumulates smart money short positions inside of this internal range premium. Body closes right at that old low. Little wick, We'll see if price actually wants to respect this premium before moving lower. We see dollar contracting as this retracement occurs. Relative symmetry between the indices, ES, NQ, YM. So S&P, Nasdaq, Dow. No real divergences on the 1 hour or the 15-minute chart for market sentiment. It's kind of what I'm looking for now. Didn't really form a higher high in Williams percent R with this high. That's not necessary, but I would have liked to see that. Nothing really to see with this high either. See, his price reaches inside of this gap here. Price seeks this gap here. We're just watching as price protracts lower, seeing the reactions here. See the old lows respected perfectly with the bodies. Retested with the wick. Creates that movement lower. Retest the low of this 1 hour balanced price range. Breaks lower into this gap and into this bivy. Buy side imbalance, volume imbalance here. See the retracement off of this gap here back into this balanced price range. little gap forms here instead of that bounce price range. Price trends all the way back into this old low. I want to see it sweep these highs. Beautiful reaction right off of this baby here. If I can grab it. We have 10 minutes till 9:30 Equities Open. creating a divergence between ES and NQ. We can see a sympathy rally here actually. Yeah, so this is sympathy rally. Still a divergence between YM, NQ, ES sympathy rally. If we go into a 1 minute chart here, I don't really see anything notable inside of this range. Price to seek for external range liquidity. We'll like to just reject off of this a small sweep above. If we start seeing some sponsorship, that would not be favorable. Really close to that 9:30 equities open. If we switch to regular trading hours, I'll drop a horizontal line right where we closed last. YM does break above, negating this SMT divergence and a sympathy rally. Price is spending a lot of time inside of this premium, accumulating smart money shorts. However, I'm not very confident of this reversal anymore if we're not going to start breaking lower. Especially with the SVT divergence that just broke with the break above with YM here. We're going to need to see that soon if price does want to reverse here. Price retest the low of that 1 hour bounce price range. Trace all the way back up into the high of it. 2 minutes till 9:30. Seconds. Could see some aggressiveness once these equities open. Low is swept here. Reaching the low of this gap here. Move this back up to this high. Equilibrium rest right at that 8:30 open. So that's what we're watching next. Price reaches that equities open. Watching this low. was swept here. Watching as price retraces back into equilibrium and this 8:30 open. Off of the sweep of this low. There's that retracement back into that 9:30 equities open. We can see if price wants to repel lower away and continue moving lower. Want to see like a gap form and for price to just break away from it. This is the breaker low. Price is retesting. Just gonna keep it because that's there. New day opening gap. Low is here. That's that Friday close. We're retesting here for that immediate rebalance. So no breakaway gap. Seeking liquidity above these highs is not favorable. I would anticipate this being the impulse protraction and for price to start seeking these highs. So I'd like for price to stay below this low. Or this high, excuse me. So if we break above, I'm no longer interested. It's looking like we're going to. So if we do end up doing that, what I'm afraid of, why I want to not be in this position if we break above this high, is I'm afraid that we're going to treat this as inversion and head for these highs. So I'll wait for that to happen. There it is. Now we're looking to see if we can reach back into this constant correction here. And I'd be looking to take a long here. I have to return back into this gap to target these highs. We created that inducement of shorts here. There's the concentration. And if this ends up being a loss, then I'll be done for the day. You see the divergence here between ES and QYM in that impulse retraction lower. So we fade this move completely and start targeting these highs. So this is no longer expected to be the high of day that was previously anticipated. We're gonna just wait for price to form that retracement off this constant cushion to lead back into, there's a breaker here. I'll utilize this entire range. Constant cushion forms right at that low. It's most likely the 5-minute breaker. Yeah. Looking for that converging, you see. Allowing for it to, if it wants to come back into this 1 hour balanced price range, it can. Maybe an IO fed into this gap here. The XY starting to break lower away from the consolidation range also. I don't know if I noted that here or if that happened while I was looking at this divergence here. We now also have a type 2 divergence in sentiment with this low. Kind of a bull flag. I'll just use this. As price induces further longs, break it above, break it above, break it above. So stops are resting here, below this, what would be retail resistance turn support. So that's what I'm targeting. I'm targeting these lows, targeting this high for the sell side that rests with people placing, I'm just gonna narrow to sell side. For people that are placing their positions here, so you see how it's targeted. Right back into that old down and converging constant correction here. I wanted to see it get back into this gap. It might not do that, it might just extend it aggressively higher. I'm fine with missing the move, I don't really care. But I would love to see if we can continue lower and try to get into this gap here. So you're probably not going to do that. If we break above these highs and reach this take profit before we reach this limit order, then I'll be done. Oh, that's that, sorry. That's that high impact news event right there. So we got that inducement of shorts, inducement of longs. We're likely just going to attack these highs. I doubt that this retracement occurs again. But since we're still spending some time at this constant retracement, I'll leave the order on for that possibility of wicking into this gap. I'd love for, if we look at this as a model, I'm gonna have to go to a 15-second chart. See this consolidation range here. Induce shorts, induce longs. So people entering short are tagged in here, tagged out here. That doesn't mean that we're going to target these lows. I would have liked it to, but it just created this retracement here back into the low of this consolidation range. Are we gonna push up back into this, into these highs? If I wanted to, I could do something like this for the possibility of creating that I fed back into this gap here. Since we're already in a premium, I'm not gonna do that. Since we're already above this high also, I'm gonna just negate this trade entirely. Taper the rest of the session, or until we break above these highs. At 60.39.50. Reach the high of this inversion, this 1 hour inversion missing. We see if we get that retracement back into this range. The market structure shift here for that YouTube model on a 15-second chart. Forget about the highs here. I'm going to put my stop here instead of here. Just because that this is a failure swing. Here. Otherwise I would put it here. If this low swept here, then I would have had my stop loss at this low. Since it didn't do that, I'm just going to keep it at this low here. We're fairly close to that objective now. So I could just reject off of this old high instead before just pushing into it. We're gonna see if we can actually get a retracement though. This would be more like an expansion model entry. If I was inclined to enter along here, and wherever my stop would be, it doesn't really matter. This would be an expansion model entry. Expansion model entry is kind of like not expecting it to retrace back into a discount. It's also an entry in premium. You don't want to take longs in premium. That's what retail does. So we turn back into that old high. You can see if we utilize that as a push higher into this old, or excuse me, into the sweep above the current daily high. Or if we actually form that retracement model back into this consolidation range and this gap here. Treating that old high swept as inversion, retesting it here, and back into it again. I'd like to see if we can move lower off of this area into that retracement model. Whoops. Adjusting it back into it again. So it's looking like that expansion model entry is going to seek these highs. Just kind of did a little bit of damage back into this wick here. So it would be something like this. Looking for it to attack these highs, and then just reach right back into the current daily high. You gotta be quick with these 15-second charts. Back into old low again, we'll see if we can actually sweep these lows and then return to that retracement model. Really thought we'd start to see some expansion off of this candle, but we didn't. Retraced all the way back into this gap here, reaching back into the high. We'll see if we actually do want to break above these highs. Broke above this one. Just some consolidation here. Broke above the high finally. Oops, wrong one. Slowly breaking above these highs. Want to start seeking this high here. ES is leading the pack. Actually, Dow. All right, so now we did break above these highs. Beautiful. So Dow broke above these highs before anybody else. Why? NQ is actually the laggard here, which is interesting. Yep, we can see how we were looking for shorts. Once we reached back above this premium, that short was negated for relatively break-even trade. Looked for the reversal here to target those highs as it changed. Missed my entry as price only retested this constant encroachment. Was a little greedy, I guess, with the entry here. That's fine. Decided to only reject off of that during that high impact news driver. Value swing here, retracement, breakaway gap here, expansion model entry here to seek those highs. So difficult day. Being that it is 1 Monday, 2, there's about 1 million news drivers today. So overall, it's a good tapering session. I think I took a loss of like $20, so it's basically negligible. 52, so yeah, that's nothing compared to the $50,000 account. It's, what would that be? less than 0.1%. So that's the first trade on this funded account. I'll probably chop this up for your study, kind of see how I do with my trading. And I obviously don't expect you to be able to manage the emotions of entering a short, fading it completely, and then entering long. That's nowhere near what I expect you to do. But overall, good tape reading session. So it's been an hour and 10 minutes. This is usually when I would get off anyway. I think I told you around the 1:30 mark is kind of where my attention gets kind of shot, and I'm no longer able to focus as well. Especially looking at these 50-second charts, it's very, very difficult to flip back and forth and keep your emotions in check while doing it. So I'll do the same thing tomorrow.